Hey, random people out there on the internet. It is the Mustang Ridge Wood Bandit coming at you. So, recently read a post on one of the groups that I follow of a nice young lady who said that she was thinking about getting into woodworking, wanted to know what kind of tools she needed to start with. Well, that's a very deep question. Depends on who you talk to and a lot of other factors that you need to consider. First of all, if you've never done it, is it something you want to do as a hobby, or are you thinking about making money with it? What are your intentions? And then you got to have a workspace. Now, you can work outdoors in your garage or any number of places, but you're going to be at the will of the weather as to when and how long you can work. If you can get a decent little shed or something you can work out of, that's probably best. Now, if you talk to some woodworkers, you're not a woodworker unless you own $10,000 worth of tools. Well, if you just want to work with wood, and I think anybody that works with wood is a woodworker, but we can have arguments about that if you like, you need to consider A, you got to mark the wood, B, you're going to cut the wood, and C, you're going to put the wood together. So at a bare minimum, let's think about that. You're going to need material. Where do you get the material? Depends on what you're trying to do. If you're a brand new woodworker, I strongly recommend that you buy cheap wood or repurposed wood that you can find here and there and yonder until you get your mind together as to whether this is what you actually want to do and where you want to go with it. Now, you have to be able to mark the wood. So you're going to need a tape measure and a pen. By the way, this is a fast cap. It's about $10. It's probably the best one for a newbie because it marks all the delineations of sixteenths, eighths, and quarters very clearly. Well, when you mark the wood, it needs to be square with the wood, so you're going to need some kind of square. I recommend a cheap speed square to begin with. Later on, you might buy a framing square for larger items. But you can put your square on there, put it up against that ridge, just make a mark, and that's where you'll cut it. So, how are you going to cut it? Well, you need something to cut it with. Most people start out with a circular saw. This is actually a battery-operated circular saw, but you can pick up a corded circular saw for $20. They're really not that much. And so you're going to end up cutting it. Well, you might have to drill holes in it. So you're going to need a drill. Any kind of drill will work. Corded ones, again, $20. I have a nicer set that I use. And then you're going to have to put the wood together. Oh, going back to cutting, if you're going to cut something that's not straight, you're going to want a jigsaw. And then finally, you're going to have to put it together. So you're probably going to want a screw gun of some kind. You can use a drill, but you just need to be careful with it. So by using just what you see here, we'll see what you can do with just this minimal set of tools. All right, what I have here is a big old bird condominium. It has 6 little pigeonholes in there, dividers in there to keep them all separated so 6 different families of birds can live in here. Get you some paint, be creative. Texas, yay. In any event, all of this was originally made about 2 years ago with a circular saw, a drill, squares, and pins. That's it. I got the roof out there drying, so it'll have a roof on it, don't worry. But in any event, it gives you an idea of what you can do with a minimal set of tools. Now, once you've done something like this and, God forbid you get the bug, at that point, it might be time to start upgrading. By upgrading, I mean buying more tools that are more expensive, but you can still do it on a budget. Let's take a look at that. All right, so when I was talking about expanding and growing your tool collection, the centerpiece of most shops is a table saw. Almost everybody who does woodworking has a table saw. Well, you can spend thousands of dollars on a table saw. But if you're new to the hobby and you're not trying to break the bank, you can get in on a budget. So let me show you mine. This is a skill table saw. It comes in under about $300. It's very small, but it does everything you need to do. When you add a few accessories like our fence here and our feather boards and whatnot, you're probably talking closer to $300, $350, $400 maybe, but it's not $3,000. In any event, it's a very good saw, has a nice powerful motor, and it will do pretty much anything you need it to do. Another tool that is central to a lot of workshops, some people get by without it, would be your miter saw. If you want a miter saw, you want to make sure you get one that's a compound miter saw, which means that you can cut different angles and different bevels by moving it different ways. That way, if you need to cut something that's 45 degrees, you can slant that over to 45 degrees or turn this around to 45 degrees and make very, very precise cuts. Now, you can still do all of this with a circular saw, so don't lose track of that. If you're just getting started, a circular saw is fine, all right? Now, as you begin to get more addicted to the hobby, one of the next things you're probably going to want is a router. Okay, there are thousands of them out there. A pretty good beginner place would be a palm router, or also called a trim router. A trim router can be handheld by different bits, and you can make edge profiling like chamfer edges and round over edges. You can cut grooves and boards and all kinds of stuff with a router that you couldn't do, or could do with a saw, but it would take you a whole lot longer and you'd have to work a whole lot harder. Now, another type of router is a router table. A router table is a router that's mounted in the table so that you can run the wood across it and do that same kind of profiling. I have a very cheap one. Again, I work on a budget, so let's take a look at that. This is a router table here. With a router table, it'll have a fence so that you can push it up near the bit. And you'll see I have a bit in there right now. When you push it up near the bit, you can lock it down and run boards right straight across it, cut grooves, cut bevels, all that kind of stuff without cutting all the way through the wood. Really good addition to a shop. And then drills. You know, if you have a drill, you can always drill holes. But if you want nice, precise holes, you almost need a drill press. A drill press is this guy here. With a drill press, it has a table, a fence, and of course the collet in order to put the bit in. And you can raise and lower the table so that you can put a bit in there and be very precise as to how straight and how deep that bit is. Most of them will have a table that can tilt so you can do angle drills and whatnot, but it gives you a very precise straight up and down drill. Also on this table, I have another type of saw called a bandsaw. Now, what makes a bandsaw special is that it's like a jigsaw, but it's fixed. And you can take and run your wood through here and cut circles, cut hearts, cut different types of shapes, and the blade just stays right where it is, and you move the wood, which is a little different than some of the other things that you'll run into. Again, depends on your budget. I said that I'm budget friendly. I got this as a package deal with a sanding machine for about $300. And then this, the Raycon 6-inch bandsaw ran also, or 10-inch, I'm sorry, bandsaw ran also about $300. Now, if that's a lot of money to you, it might not be time for you to get into that, but they're nice to have. So whenever you get wood, typically a wood is not perfectly square and straight, so you have to smooth it out. Now you can use a sander, which is one of the tools we haven't talked about yet, to smooth that out, but you can also use what's called a planer. When you run a planer, you just run the board through there and it will resurface that wood so it's nice and smooth. So for instance, if you started out using fence pickets and they're rough cut fence pickets, you can smooth them out with a planer. I have a lot of tools, okay? Now that being said, I didn't start with it that way. I did start with a circular saw, a drill, things like that, and made some great wood projects that I really enjoyed making because I started by making outdoor things. Let's take a look at that and see what we're talking about. So we're back and we're outdoors. Just showing you some of the things I built with just circular saws, drills, and whatnot. For instance, my porch. The bench that sits on the porch, the roof on there. Again, circular saws, drills, hammers, nails. You know, my wife is handicapped and I needed a ramp. I built this ramp and those stairs and the porch. Again, using primarily circular saws, drills, hammers, okay? The entire carport in the shop that you see here was built with just rudimentary tools. So my point here is that you don't have to have a huge collection of expensive tools. And if you're just getting into it, you want to start out kind of slow. You want to take your time and try to figure out what it is you're trying to achieve. Because when you begin, you might want to just start by building simple things like stools and benches and things like that, so you can get an idea of whether this is really what you want to do. And if it is, well then slowly expand those tools and let your projects guide you as to what tools you need next. For instance, with me, I always wanted a table saw. I never had one. But after I retired, I said, well, you know what? I want to do woodworking on a regular basis. I'm not trying to make a living with it. It's a hobby for me. So that's why I went with budget items. The end of the game is that it depends on so much. What's your budget like? What's your workspace like? What's your taste in woodworking? What are you trying to build? Are you trying to build outdoor things? Are you trying to build furniture? Are you trying to build small boxes, curios, charcuterie boards, or cutting boards? Depends on what you're trying to do as to the tool set you're going to want to have. And over a period of time, you can build up a tool set so that you can pretty much do anything. That's about it for now, but I wanted to just go ahead and visit that for just a few minutes. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, or at least give me a little, hey, how you doing? I enjoy doing these, and I appreciate your views. As always, be safe.